Hello and welcome to the Biz Kidz Podcast. I am JD Rabali, your host, and today we have a guest with us, Kaci with Kaci Cakes. Kaci has been in the Biz Kidz program for quite a while, and she has a lot of knowledge of how things work and how things don't work, and figuring all that out. But our format is basically I'm going to be your host. We will have kid business owners and college business owners, and they're not a kid anymore. Thank
you. A little
young adult business owners that it will be asking questions to our guests and our panel of experts that come in. And so Kaci, Kaci is going to be one of our co-hosts. So I just want you to get to know her and about her business. So Kaci, to start off, tell us in 60 seconds who you are and what you do, and go from there.
Okay. Well, my name is Kaci Richardson. I am the owner of Kaci's Cakes and Bakes. We're a small business bakery here in Southwest Florida, and we specialize in custom cakes, desserts, cookies, all that good stuff. I really love to make people happy with what I do. I like to bring joy with my desserts and my cakes and my customer service. One thing that I'm working on right now with my business is moving into wholesale, so you can find my cookies being sold at Urban Buzz, both locations. And yeah, I'm really excited about what's happening with that.
Awesome. And so let's kind of go back a few steps to see how this all started and you got into this business. And making people happy with sugar is always good, right? So everybody wants a little sugar to sweeten up their day. Mm-hmm. Tell us, you started with Biz Kidz, I think about 8 years ago, if I remember correctly. How old were you at that time?
Oh, I gotta do math now? Oh, geez. Okay, I was 11 or 12, I believe.
Nice. And what was your very first product that you started with?
The first thing I sold for real money was little clay charms. So you would take like polymer clay and then build it into some like minuscule little thing that you could barely see. And I had so much fun doing it, but I had to work on how to make my creativity into something that I could sell for more money and that people actually wanted to buy. So
when your first event, did you how much do you remember how much you sold?
Oh geez, I don't know. I think the cute little 10-year-old face is what really got me the sales, but I can't imagine it was that much.
And that's what we find, the first time out, it's a way to practice, to get to understand it and to know it. Not everybody's going to have a home run the very first time out. So it's a good process. And so I know you did this for multiple years. After the polymer clay bracelets or whatever you were doing, what did you go to next?
There was a lot of evolutions of it, honestly. I think like even before that, I would sell like rainbow loom bracelets was my very first iteration. Then I went to the clay charms. Then I think I started baking, but I don't think it was what I do now. I think I was a reseller. So I would buy the Publix desserts and then sell them at the school fairs, which was not ethical. Don't recommend doing that. And then after that, I think I started working on my own stuff. And I think that's like where I found my niche and found out how I can evolve that along with me and my character.
So when you started getting into the baking on your own and doing the design, where did you find your inspiration? Was it somebody in the family, or did you just hit Instagram and get some ideas?
Well, my grandma, I know it's always the grandma, but it really is my grandma who taught me how to bake. She showed me how to do the buttercream flowers and like how to decorate, because she used to do like wedding cakes back in the day. And she would like sell it to her friends and stuff. And so I remember for my cousin's wedding up in Michigan, she had me help her out and make that. And it didn't look that great, I'm going to be honest. But it was a lot of fun, and that's kind of what started me to want to do that on my own.
Did it taste good?
I don't know. I didn't get to taste it. I'm sure it was delicious, though. Of course, it was delicious.
So when you were first starting, did you ever get any feedback that was negative? Like, did somebody like try one of your desserts and go, "Oh"?
Yes. So I still think about this all the time. But so the second cake that I ever sold under the name Kaci's Cakes and Bakes, I was still testing recipes. And honestly, I jumped the gun a little bit. Like I should have built up my product before I started charging people for it. But the second cake I always requested feedback, so I can get better. And they were always nice to me, so I was like, oh, great, get some confidence boost. But she responded, she was super nice about it, and she was like, just want to let you know, the cake was really dry, nobody was eating it, I think you charged too much for me, and we ended up throwing like half of it away. And I was like, oh, that's the end. I guess I just have to quit now. Like, can't I can't go on. But after I gathered my wits for a few days, I was like, you know what? I'm glad that she could tell me so I don't keep making the same cake recipe. And then people keep lying to me and saying that it's good when it's really not. And so then I changed my recipe after that, and after that, I've gotten 99% positive feedback from people. So.
And that's great that you realized that, you had to hear the negative to kind of figure that out. Because if they would have lied to you, continued to lie to you, your cakes would have been horrible. No one would have been buying anymore. They were like, and then you would have had this reputation of, she makes bad, dry cakes.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing you asked and learned from the feedback that you heard. And we all get in that situation where, we get negative feedback and then we just want to quit. Say, okay, I'm not going to do this because I got negative feedback from one person. And who knows? Then maybe the next person loves dry cake. And they're like, hi, this is great. So, you never know. Everybody has their own taste, right?
Exactly. And since then, even after she called that overpriced, now I'm charging significantly more than what I charged her, and people say I don't charge enough. They're happy with what they get. It's always a learning experience to find the balance with that.
Exactly. And so what was it in your business that you kind of surprised you? Like if you had like a negative feedback or what you thought maybe was going to be your best like cake or your best idea that didn't work out. What did you learn from that?
Yeah. So I remember one thing that I like to do with my business, especially around like holidays, is do specials where I sell like bulk orders of like pre-ordered like cookie boxes or cupcakes or whatever. And the second time around that I did that, I wanted to do summer cookie decorating kits. And the reason why I wanted to do that so bad is because I had so many people telling me like, oh my gosh, you have to do that, you have to do that. Everyone would buy it. I would totally buy it. Like, please do that. So I was like, okay, great, I'll do that. And then I charged what made sense to be a fair amount. And I got like 0 sales. Like there was one lady who told me over and over again, and she had like kids and everything that would be a perfect person to build one. Didn't buy any. And I was like, I don't know, it's hard to understand sometimes. Like the customer's always right, they say. But also that has to be supported by market research and pricing scales and stuff like that. And so since then, I still take customer feedback. Like that's definitely important to know what your customer wants to buy. But I post it on my Instagram directly to my followers and the people who have bought from me before and the people who are repeat customers. And they give me the feedback rather than just like some lady who's listening to me talk about how I like to make cakes,
Yeah. And I think that it's great to get that feedback, but you have to remember too that sometimes the people that are closest to you, they're not going to give you the honest feedback. And even though they say, hey, this is going to be a great product, this is going to sell, and you make it, and they're like, well, why aren't you buying it then?
Yeah, exactly.
So we learn from that as well. And unfortunately, we see it a lot of times that the family is the naysayers, that they're like, oh, this isn't going to work and you shouldn't do this. And so they get in your head. And because they're family, that can really affect the direction you want to go with your business, because it's the family, you trust them, and then now they're telling you this isn't a good idea. But the public, hey, they love the idea and they're buying it. So you kind of have to balance that, make sure that the naysayers aren't getting in your head that distract you too much. So, were you shy in the beginning?
Oh yeah, I was always so scared to talk to people, especially if I had to do an event where I would table. I would always like hide behind my mom. I didn't want to say anything. But the reason why I'm like more outgoing now is because I got like this part-time job at a restaurant somewhere else, and they had me answering the phones to take orders, and that really snapped me right out of my comfort zone. So that's
one of the things in my journey. I was I always loved sales. Like I thought that would be kind of the thing. I was always motivated by money. So I like the idea of having commissions. And so taking a sales job was kind of my idea instead of having just a regular
Hmm.
getting paid by the hour type of job. And I got a job as a telemarketer, which is the worst job in the world, but
Yeah.
you'll learn so much because you deal with rejection. And if you're shy, you cannot like
Yeah.
it's the term in our little sales ring that we had there was smile and dial. And you just sit down and you dial the phone as many times. And it is so humbling to get that rejection
Yeah.
over and over. I would literally do 100 phone calls and get 100 no's before I would get one yes.
Yeah.
So, but it breaks you down and it makes you stronger. So you have
Hmm.
to kind of learn those tools as you're going along. So now your business is taking off. You're in college. You have your full LLC. You're all legit. You're
Oh
doing
yeah.
corporate gifts. You're doing gifts for the coffee house. And so wholesale, you said wholesale in the beginning. So where do you see the business going from here?
So for some background, I'm currently in my final year or my final semester at FGCU to graduate with my entrepreneurship degree. And a program that they have with that degree is called the Runway Program, where you get mentorship and like advising from the professors there, and they like help you build your business. And at the very end of it, you get to like pitch to investors and get some funding for it if you win. And so right now I'm evolving the idea into what I want it to look like in the future. And so I'll give you my rundown pitch for that also. So it's going to evolve into a food truck based business. And I'm still going to include the custom cakes and custom desserts, but it's going to be like an assembly line style dessert food truck that you can book for weddings, like corporate events, birthdays, stuff like that. And so it still keeps my personalization and customization touch on the product, but it elevates it into a format that I can sell it to larger scales, and also I'll have like the qualifications and the like the uh
Credentials.
yeah, exactly. That's the word. The credentials to sell wholesale and to sell like to a larger like market of people.
So I heard a little rumor that you may be going off to Paris to get some of those
Oh,
credentials.
that might be a rumor. Yeah, I'm working on the application now to study at, oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher Le Cordon Bleu.
There you go.
That's
I
okay.
think you said
That's
it
okay.
right.
Yeah. I'll get better once I go there. But they have a pastry program that's like world renowned. Like if you graduate from that program, like you could get any job you want, any restaurant, bacon, whatever you want. And so right now I'm looking at either like a 6 week or 3 month program, just depending on cost wise on that, because it's a little pricey to fly across country and study in a brand new
Well,
country
you're an
for
entrepreneur,
three
so you're
months.
rich, right? So
Yeah, maybe the opposite I think is true for most. But
as most entrepreneurs, we make a little money and then we invest it back,
yeah,
because we want it to be bigger and better, and
yeah,
so you're always like struggling to get the cash to do the next thing. So
hmm
I understand, and that's part of the process of learning how to balance that. So,
yeah,
well, that's great that you get to go off to Paris, you get to learn this. I do have another student. He's in college that he does the food truck thing as
hmm
well, and he has a lot of connections in the food truck world. So we maybe connect you guys and get
yeah,
you guys
for sure.
connected. So I know he knows how to get trucks and supplies and all that good stuff. So kind of helping that whole process of how
Yeah,
to
that
do
would be
that. So
awesome.
yeah. So what ask one of the tools, or what are the tools that you use in your day to day business that you've like found that, hey, this is a game changer. I'm doing things more efficiently because I'm using this kind of a tool. It could be an app. It could be something on your computer you found. What would that be for you?
Okay, I gotta remember the name. Let me wait. Does my camera go away if I do this? Let's see. So what I use is a recipe cost calculator, and it's super convenient for like this type of business, the baking stuff. It's called Meez, Meez. You have to
Okay.
pay for it, but it's not that expensive. And you type in your whole recipe, type in how much it is, type in the price, of like the bulk of where you get it. And then it calculates how much it costs for that specific amount of flour and sugar and butter or whatever. So it tells you how much it costs, and then you can also enter like you want your profit margins to be, what your overhead is, all that, like labor costs and everything, to like tell you what you should charge for it. And
Nice.
it's really awesome.
Have you ever heard the story of Mrs. Fields cookies? Like, have you looked into that?
I know what it is, but I don't know.
Yes.
You
So
might have to
Mrs.
tell me.
Fields cookies, they went to franchise all over the world. Definitely look up her story, because she talks about a lot in the beginning where she got her first store in a mall, and she couldn't get people to come in and buy a cookie, so she started giving little samples. She'd stand at the door and give little samples, and that would get people in, and they'd buy their cookies. And then she's like, well, how am I going to scale this where we can have this in every mall across the country? And she got the idea of pre-packaging all the ingredients, so she didn't have to give the secret recipe to anybody. And then that's how she was able to send it off to a store, the next store, and the next store. But a lot more detail in her story that we don't have time to go over today. But look her story up, because it's an amazing story of how she struggled to get off the ground as a small little cookie business, and has blown up and now is known worldwide. So that's a good one. What would you say, or what advice would you give a young entrepreneur that's just getting into the business, or starting their own business, a kid getting into the business? What kind of advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing for me is I know it's cliche, but you have to accept your failures, and you have to learn from them. And it's not just like acknowledging like, oh man, like that was a bad idea, let me just do something else. It's like going into that and like understanding why that was a bad idea, and understanding how you can change that to make it better. And like going along with that, there's a lot of people that will like see those failures and like break you down for that. It's like, oh, see, like there how you failed, like you're not good enough, like that's not gonna work, like you gotta figure out something else to do with your life, And it's just important to not like let that get to you. I mean, you can let it get to you, but in a way that encourages you more and makes you want to prove them wrong and makes you want to do better than that. So
Did you ever see the Disney movie Meet the Robinsons?
maybe a while ago.
So it was the one about the spaceships.
Oh
It was kind of
with the guy with the hair. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy with the hair. So the whole I love this movie, and I think this is Disney's best movie out there. I know there's a lot of people that will disagree with me on that, but it's a movie, or the whole episode or the whole show is all about celebrating the failures. And anytime they're scientists, so they would try something, and if it didn't work, they would celebrate it and move on and go do the next thing. So that's what we really try to do with Biz Kidz, is understanding that celebrating the failures is the key to your success. Because if you focus on just the negative every time, it's going to bring you down. If you listen to all the naysayers saying, oh, see, I told you it didn't work, instead of looking at why it didn't work, maybe it was something just as simple as I hid behind my mom and I didn't talk to anybody. That's why it didn't work. So we have to sometimes step out of our comfort zone to figure out, why isn't it working? Let's try something different. I'm going to do it a different approach. Is always great. One of the best of stories that I have from one of our events is we had two kids that were selling baked goods, and they were sitting at their table at this music festival that we were at, and they were selling a little bit here and there, but they still had a lot of stuff to get rid of. And it was about an hour before the show was over. And one of the kids came up to me and said, hey, can I go out to the crowd and sell my stuff? And I said, absolutely. That's what you call hustle. Mm-hmm. So he grabbed trays, put the baked goods on there, and went out to the crowd that was sitting there listening to the concert. And he sold out of everything on his table within 20 minutes. Yeah. He looked at, he saw that, I'm not selling it right here, and I have to do something different. And so he got in front of the customers right where they were sitting, and they were willing to spend the money. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, especially if you're in the retail business and you have a storefront, a lot of people sit in there and go, well, no one's coming in the door. No one's coming in the door. But they're scared to get outside of their office or outside of their building to draw people in because they don't want to offend anybody or they don't want to seem pushy. But their business ends up failing because they didn't change what was not working. So I think that's a big aha moment for a lot of young entrepreneurs and even old entrepreneurs. So, well, any last words about your business and any other advice you would give kids to get going?
I think that if you have an idea and you're like thinking about doing something and you like are nervous but you want to pull the trigger, just do it. Just do it and you'll figure it out along the way. I know it seems like a lot of us have it figured out, but no, you just got to do it and keep going.
And procrastination is like the killer. Like if you keep on just putting it off, you're going to be like, oh, I should have done that. And I should look at where I would be now if I would have not just been dragging my feet. So that's great advice. Well, I'm looking forward to our upcoming podcast with our guest and you being our co-host. And we're going to ask lots of hard, pressing questions to these entrepreneurs that have been in business for a long time and get some ideas and growth from them, because you never know what kind of seeds of hope they'll give us and what kind of knowledge they can bring to the table, and which will help all of us in our businesses. So thank you, Kaci, for being here today.
Of course, it was super fun, super exciting.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to this next podcast where we start interviewing people, and we'll go from there. So thanks for joining us today at the Biz Kidz Podcast, and we will see you next time. Thanks.